I've also told restaurant owners, I said, look, you've spent a ton of money on this place. The decor is beautiful. You have a chef that is 5 stars, an award-winning wine list. And do you know it all goes out the window as soon as the host or hostess does not acknowledge the people in front of them waiting for their table?
So last episode, we actually talked about us. We said we were going to concentrate on us and explain to people what it is we both do. So I went last time, and now this time we have up our star of the show, the spectacular, wonderful communications coach par excellence, Celeste DeCamps. Um, Hi, Celeste. How are you?
Thank you, Jean Parmel,
Wasn't that good?
for that
I thought
wonderful introduction. I think I feel done. I mean, I think
that's it. Love the quality of introductions we're getting to. It's just amazing. Soon we won't even have to say your name. You just come into the room. Just be a presence.
yeah,
Anyway, listen, I have spent, well, let's see, we met 5 years ago,
yeah, I believe
six,
so.
almost 6 years ago. We kind of never met because Lord knows we were all in the middle of COVID back then.
Yeah.
So this is how we met, and this is how we became um, informed of what each other did. We've worked together. She's worked with me and my messes, and I've worked with her. And we've come out on the other side doing bigger and better things. Um, but a lot of people say to me, communications coach,
Right.
what does that mean? Um, I can explain how I think it would help someone, and that's usually the angle I take it. But we figured that this time, because there was a lot of people asking, let's hear it right from, if you'll pardon the pun, your own mouth and say and tell us what it is that is just more than a title of communications coach. So Celeste, give us a little bit of a background on what you do and how you do it.
Okay, well, a lot of the reasons people would hire me is because they understand that there is a lack of communication, miscommunication that happens on a regular basis, whether it's a large company or a small company. Messaging can get garbled, and we are all bringing in our own perspectives and our own understanding of the mission, and yet we can easily get on the wrong page, and then it's hard to get back. It is all communication. It all comes down to how you're presenting your business, how you want others who are working for you to present it, and that you're all uniform and on the same page. Unfortunately, sales training, customer service training can get all over the place. And until you have somebody coming in from the outside to really take a look and be able to sit down with everybody, have everybody discuss what's working, what's not working, how they can build a better team, it helps to have somebody on the outside looking in. And that's where I come in. So I get hired. Yes, I get hired by people, you know,
Well,
to do just that.
so that leads me to my next question because the way you just said it, it makes it sound to me like, oh, this is like a team effort. This is not the owner of the business hires you and figures out he's going to be a genius and get everybody to start communicating well because you're teaching him. You actually come in and deal with the team more than anything. Um, Let me rephrase that. Not more than anything, you deal with the entire team, the owners, the managers, and the staff. How does that process work? How do you how do you not lose your mind trying to deal with so many people?
Well, many times we break it down. I'll come in, I'll do a staff training. And then if the company wants, they do offer me to do one-on-one coaching if people have a specific need. They're now tasked to do a lunch and learn, and they've never done that before. They are promoted to do staff trainings, and they have no experience doing it. that type of thing, then I am working individually. But in other circumstances, it could just be, I need you to come in and work with this group because our sales are down and we're not exactly sure what's going on, what is happening that is not moving our growth forward. For example, I would come in to help a restaurant with their wine and spirits sales. And especially since I did that for many years, I know the process. Plus, I co-owned and managed my own nightclub for many years.
Look at that.
So in that respect, I have a lot of experience. And it would be funny to find that half of the wait staff does not even know how to open up a bottle of wine. Yeah, so we go through that. But it's interesting because with a little bit of knowledge of the product, they are now more confident moving forward to suggest a wine pairing, to talk about their cocktail specials and what's in it and why it's so delicious. I've also told restaurant owners, I said, look, you've spent a ton of money on this place. The decor is beautiful. You have a chef that is 5 stars, an award-winning wine list. And do you know it all goes out the window as soon as the host or hostess does not acknowledge the people in front of them waiting for their table? It's that simple. It leaves a bad taste in people's mouths when they are there to part with their hard-earned money. They want to feel special. They want to feel that you're happy that they're there. And then you have somebody who won't look up and even just say, I just need a minute and I'll be right with you with a smile. But the fact that somebody can walk past you 2 or 3 times and never acknowledge your presence, well, now you are not ready to enjoy the evening. And maybe everything else goes perfectly, but that in itself left a bad taste in your mouth. Again, it's miscommunication. It's not understanding the experience that people are looking for. And that is with any business. So once again, I come in, I try to help people understand the importance of greeting people, of paying attention to people, being able to diplomatically help a customer who is mad, who comes in screaming, and how to deal with that with a sense of compassion, empathy, and kindness, which not only makes you a stellar employee, but it helps the company that much better. Many owners don't realize the impact that one employee can have on their entire business.
Oh, so true. I mean, whether it be an employee or one of the owners too. I mean, I've run into that. You know, I wanted to ask you, as you were talking about, I'm thinking of different places that I've either I've eaten or I've shopped in or whatever, and I think about how you're saying about the customer experience and how I feel when I'm walking in, if it's buying a sweater or having a dinner or buying tickets to something. When you feel seen right at the front door, you go in with a different, I think we've talked about that before, like, you know, putting a smiley face near the phone, it changes your perspective of how you answer the phone. People that are in the front lines, the front of the house in a restaurant, or the counter, or at the door in a retail shop, it sounds to me like sometimes when the business is not doing well, it could just be something as simple as the communication. They could be doing everything else right, and the communication is where it breaks down. Do you think it's more so that it's a lack of communication with the staff internally, or is it more what becomes the detriment to a business, the outward communications, the external communications to the customers and to the community at large? Which one do you
Well,
think it is?
I mean, it affects both. It can't help but affect both. Because if an employee just got chewed out by their manager and now has to face customers, you are putting somebody in front of people and they might already have an attitude and go, I don't think I want this job anymore. I don't think I care about these customers anymore. I probably will not give very good service because at this point I feel embarrassed, humiliated. I don't want to be here. And you don't think that that's not going to then trickle down to the customers and that experience? And in that respect, too, the managers internally need to understand how to deal with their employees. Okay, maybe you're upset with them, and maybe you have a reason to be angry, but then figure out a time and place and how you approach that. Because again, we can't, take for granted what people are going through in their everyday lives. And again, this is all communication. This is all about help, feeling uh, comfortable enough, to tell an employer that maybe things aren't going so well outside of work.
Mm.
Maybe you need a little bit of help, whether it's just a little bit of understanding, or maybe you need to take that mental health day. And a lot of companies that have incorporated that have seen a lot better employee morale and service. Again, it's all about being able to understand each other and work with each other because the bottom line is going to be affected no matter what. So internally, externally, it all is connected. And again, that's why when people are coming in now because they've been remote for so long and now are asked to come into the office, it's a whole new feeling. And for a lot of people, they go, okay, I'm back in the office now. Great.
Yeah.
I feel like I do not know these people anymore. I
Mhm.
feel that there is a muscle I haven't flexed in a long time in terms of my presentation skills, in terms of connecting with everybody who's now next to me when they weren't before. I've worked with companies like that and have a moment to just really reacquaint ourselves with each other and get back on the same page. But it's a process. And a lot of times people want to do that process without understanding they need somebody from the outside looking in to bring that together. And that's what I'm hoping to do more and more with more companies.
So it almost sounds like you're at certain points in the process a referee, or I don't know, a referee, or at least somebody that's, like you said, an outside observer, watching how the dynamics pan out, and then again showing the importance of adjusting just a little bit. I found it interesting when you said um, people, bosses, owners should, managers should be cognizant of what's going on in other people's lives, their staff. People, I have run the gamut working with owners that think that the staff that's working for them is at their beck and call. I've had other people that will not pressure their staff at all, and it almost sounds like the staff is running the joint as opposed to that the owner. Somewhere in between, I guess, is the sweet spot. But how important is listening in the whole communications aspect? Like the whole range of things that you work with. How much time do you spend on telling people, "Hey, shut up, listen"?
A lot of it is just that. I mean, it is active listening. And that is not just to each other, your employees and managers and owners, it's to the customer. Really listening to what the customer wants and needs. When I was in sales, I mean, most of my sales happened because I said very little. I let them know that I'm there for them. What is it you want? What is it you're looking for? What can I help you with? And when they're given that respect, I don't need to pitch them. I just need to listen, bring them what they want. And then when there are things that I believe would help their business, I bring that with me too, because again, I am there to sell, but they're more open to hearing my ideas once I've shown that I have the follow through and will deliver them what they want. And it's the same thing with employers, managers that listen to me, that gave me support, that made me feel they had my back. I'm going to be very, very loyal to them because I realize that my experience and my knowledge means something. And it's not just, well, no, you're an employee. What do you know? I mean, if you knew more, then you'd have my job. I didn't necessarily want their job, but I also knew what I was doing and I wanted that respect. I gave them the respect. I deserve that as well. So again, it's all understanding each other on a human level and not a status level. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up on. It's that title that they feel that they're all knowing and all powerful. And they do themselves a lot of disservice if they are not taking the time to listen to customers, listen to their employees, and listen overall to what people want to bring to the table.
How does a business owner well, where should a business owner be looking to start to see those signs that he can attribute to the a breakdown in communications? Like where's going to be those first uh-oh moments?
Well, you'll see it in the attitude of people.
Mhm.
You'll see disgruntled people who they want to keep their job. They're not going to say a whole lot, but it is an attitude change. It's a personality change. It's the way they listen and walk away. I mean, you do need to be able to be aware enough of reading facial cues and body language, which always surprises me when people don't, because we're so locked in our own mind and how we're coming across that we're really not paying attention to the person in front of us. So if you are missing those cues, then you are going to lose employees. You're going to lose customers. If you aren't able to dial in and focus on the person in front of you and looking at their reactions and point blank asking them, is there something that we could do better for you? That goes a long way for a customer, for an employee, for anybody who's doing business. What can I do for you? Is a very simple sentence that is rarely said.
Agreed on that one. One thing I wanted to ask you was feedback. Um, get a lot of prospects, a lot of clients, a lot of colleagues that are in networking groups with me. Some of them will embrace feedback, and others, if I tell you it's their kryptonite. They do not want to hear it. They will actively say, "Oh, I don't ask for reviews. I don't do any of that." That's the form of listening, right? That feedback that you get. What do you do with it? What do you do? Like if you go into a place and the owner says to you, "I don't care about feedback." Do you kind of consider that this is a business that you can help or you can help?
I mean, that's a huge red flag. If somebody is bringing me in and doesn't want to hear what I have to say, is it would be, why am I here? But I think for the most part, when the company does eventually realize they have an issue, they have a problem, and they bring me in, I make it very clear that what I'm going to tell them is constructive criticism. It is feedback that they've hired me to let them know about. And I will not give feedback unless I have a solution to what I see a problem is. So I take it very seriously about how I am critiquing the business overall, how I critique the employees, how I speak to them. And I do it really with kid gloves because people are defensive. Hey, nobody wants to be told they're doing something wrong. I mean, we take pride in our work. We take pride in how we conduct ourselves. But unfortunately, if we're not being effective, we do need to learn how. So I try to do it in a way that are suggestions, giving my ideas and my opinions with the preface with, this is something you might want to try. And at least it softens the blow a little bit and it gets people understanding that I'm there for them. It's to benefit them. And I find that more than likely, every single time, people are more than willing to listen and to learn. It's a little bit of breaking down that wall, but I think when they really feel that I am hoping for their success, I am rooting for them, I am encouraging them, it does change the dynamic completely.
What's the first thing a business owner should um do if they wanted to do something in the next, I don't know, right before they call you, at least gauge, get past their own blocking. What should they be looking for? What clues should they ask their should they talk to their staff? Do they go from the point of, am I being clear enough as a boss? Are you clear on what we want into what our expectations are? What's the easiest way for an owner or a manager to start the conversation, maybe in their own heads, of, do I really need somebody to come in and help with this, or is it not so bad I can do it myself? I could try to fix it myself.
Well, I mean, if it's not a situation where they are losing employees left and right, that customer reviews are terrible, that their business growth has slowed. If it hasn't gotten to that, and it's just a matter of just some inkling that maybe things aren't going the way they feel is in the right direction, and they want to nip it in the bud right away. And they can simply, again, let their employees know, I do have an open door policy and mean it. They need to be told, come in, set up an appointment with me, and we'll talk. Some of the biggest and most thriving companies that are out there have this philosophy. They know that their employees are on the front line. Their customer service, their sales force, they're the ones who are dealing with the customers. And many times they have really good ideas on how to better serve the customer, ideas of how to grow the business. And they let them in and they say, I want to hear about your idea. And they don't take the credit. They let them know, hey, Jane Parmel just came up with an amazing idea of how to increase our profits. And they give bonuses for that. They encourage that. And that gets everybody feeling that they are a team, that they're all working together, that their ideas, their opinions are met with enthusiasm. Not, yeah, 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 maybe another day, another time. We already know that. We're working on it.
You know,
Or take credit for your great
I
idea.
was just going to say, your great idea, right? Wow. Um, just the way you said that, it's like, oh, that you come across that sometimes, where people are either afraid, like, as from the staff's point of view. Now, you mentioned open door policy. Do I say something? Do I not say something? A lot of people will just keep their mouths shut and get their paycheck and go home. I don't know that that fosters a really happy workforce. It just, to me, it doesn't. But if so, we have owners that are listening to this podcast. We have managers, and I'm sure we have a couple of people that are employees or thinking of a career change or whatever. What's one thing that a person can do to maybe improve their feeling at work, like their comfort level at work, if they know that communications might be one of the challenges that's making them unhappy? What's one thing that they could do or listen for, or your best suggestion?
Well, from the employee standpoint of view of what they can do,
Mhm.
they would need to go, I mean, follow the chain of command. I mean, don't go over somebody's head without at least giving them an opportunity to talk to them, to say, hey, these are some things that are a concern for me. Is there any time that you have in the next day, in the next week, that I can have an appointment to talk to you? And most of the time, hopefully all of the time, that a manager will say, yeah, no problem. Let's talk. Let me know what's going on. And have that discussion and just lay it out. If you don't get the support that you're looking for, and you feel that your next step would be to go to HR or to find the next person up, and you feel comfortable doing that, I would suggest doing that. I would also say, get HR's advice on it. If the company's not that big, and you don't have an HR department, which I understand too, then it would mean trying to find somebody else in the company that you can trust and say, I feel that my concerns are not valid or are not being heard. Do I have a future here in this company? Because I don't feel I'm ever going to grow. I don't feel I can climb up the ladder if my concerns aren't heard or bothered with or addressed in any way, shape, or form. And that's tough. I mean, unfortunately, many companies are not that willing to invite that, and it's at their peril because you are going to lose really good people. Good people are not going to stay where they're not welcomed. And so that's, you
That's true.
know, but
Yes,
I mean, I
I
would start with, try to go up, with the right person that you need to talk to first and have that conversation. And it's not easy. You don't want to come in and be upset or be angry. Just I would like a conversation and keep it calm
right.
and have your notes. Be prepared for that conversation. Don't go in trying to wing it. Have bullet points of things that you would like to have addressed and and put it in a way of how can I make this better? If you can come in with a little bit of vulnerability, a little self-deprecation of, I just want to succeed in this business. I want to know that I'm doing my best. Please help me with this. You will have at least, hopefully, somebody who will sit down and go, wow, that's great. I'd love to hear what your issues are or, what I could do to help you. It is a matter, though, of, again, communicating with kindness and understanding, because, again, you don't know what your manager has just gone through. He just might have gotten chewed out
True. So true. I mean,
and
again,
then wants to put the onus on you. And that's not that it's fair, but it happens.
it's ridiculous, I think, sometimes when people um make assumptions, especially in the sense that, well, I heard them say this, or in and you said it correctly. I heard them say this. That's not what they said. Or the lack of clear communications, the lack of focused um times where you can give feedback to your boss. And like you said, there's a time and a place. There's also a battle that you want to pick. Stupid little things, sometimes you just have to overlook. But bigger things, I mean, again, I think it works in two ways. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I think sometimes where the workers are afraid to go to the boss because, get back to work. If I'm I knew somebody once that said the famous line, "If I wanted your opinion, I would have given it to you." Um, they'll send them back on their way, as opposed to the bosses sometimes, the owners, the managers, go to say something to the staff and they almost get intimidated by the fact that, hey, it's not just one person on staff this might pertain to, it might be two or three. And oh my God, if I say something to two or three of them, what happens if two or three of them quit all at once? Hey, listen, those things happen, right? But what do you think is better as somebody that comes in and is hoping to fix this? Not said, said, what should somebody do? And should a boss ever feel like they're being held hostage by their staff?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, I worked with that at my restaurant. I was determined to really work with everybody, have that open door policy, and yet have a chef who decided that he was in charge and he's not taking orders from a woman telling him what to do.
You know what they say about temperamental chefs.
Oh, oh yeah, no, there's really something to that.
Yep.
But he, fired my dishwasher, who I love.
It went
And
right over your head down to
yeah,
his
and
own.
so this young man comes to me and he says, "Well, I really enjoyed working with you. Maybe you could give me a good recommendation." And I said, "Wait a minute, are you leaving me?" And
You quitting?
he goes, "Well, the chef just fired me." And I said, "Well, the chef doesn't sign your paycheck. I do." And I went in there and I confronted the chef, and I mean, very nicely, I said, "Could you explain to me the problem that you want to fire our dishwasher?" And he got belligerent right away. And he said, "Let me just put it to you this way. It's either me or him." And I said, "Well, let me put it to you this way. I like him way more than I like you." And he left. And
Good for you.
and
Good. And you
and,
started
and of
cooking.
course, I had to call my brother, who I co-owned the place with, and I said, "We need to find a new chef." And I
And he's
told
like,
him what
when?
happened. I
Yeah.
told him what happened. I said, "I refuse to be held hostage by any of our employees. We are
Okay.
more than fair, but I will not be spoken to that way. I will not be told, what I can and cannot do in the place that I am running and invested in."
Mhm.
And for that matter, there was a gentleman came to the door looking for a job. I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I cook." I go, "Great, let's see how you do." And I put him to work.
There you
I called
go.
my brother going, "All right, I got somebody."
Don't worry about it. It's already fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Again,
that type of thing that yes, but it all has to be done with a sense of interest with everybody. I mean, a sense of interest in terms of, I want to know why you're upset, or I want to know why do you want to leave? And what is it that we're not doing here? But if demands are such, like you said, you can't be held hostage by your employees, then it doesn't mean that they're invested like you are.
right.
And of course they're not really. I mean, their money's not invested in there. They're looking for a paycheck for you.
Exactly.
But if you don't have employees feeling that they're part of the business and that you value them, then yeah, they will go someplace else. And then that's when you do have to start looking at your leadership style and have a good perspective of how you're coming across. And the biggest misunderstandings come from, of course, our very, very favorite emailing and texting.
Why? It's perfectly clear, and you can tell everybody's intent when they text. No? No.
And so many people have gotten their feelings hurt, have been their whole messaging misconstrued because somebody's reading it and not reading it the way you intended it. Uh, So if you can actually get on the phone and talk to somebody, then do that. Because it's otherwise, I mean, I understand quick emails, but if you've got a whole paragraph or two and you want somebody to really understand your intent, then the phone call is actually quicker and easier and with a lot less misunderstanding. We have all these ways of communicating and nobody's communicating well. It's incredible.
Exactly. It's exhausting too. To think that the strategies that you could use that are so tied to soft skills, I know I could hear some business owners that I know, people I've worked with, people I've worked for, I could hear them saying, you know, it's a soft skill. It basically is a soft skill. Um, we'll figure it out as we go along. And to me, it's like, you know what? Of all the soft skills that you could have in business, in a career, or whatever, if if you can't get your point across, if you can't understand somebody else's point, and if you're not stopping long enough to pay attention, um, it's not a soft skill anymore. This is like the real deal. And if you don't have it, you ain't gonna go very far. Um, the best people in business, I think, communicate clearly with intention. Um, what do you find in terms of um, something that I could do myself to help my interpersonal communications, whether it's in the office or outside the office? What's something that I could do without your help right now, but knowing that if I probably did a little bit more research on how I behave as a listener, as a communicator, I'd probably say I probably do need you. Very much so. I know I do.
Do you want to make this our room service segment?
You know what? As a matter of fact, because we're in the right room, we have a little segment that we like to call room service. Because you know me, I'm always hungry, so whatever. Hungry for knowledge. That's it.
Okay.
Hungry for
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yes, you are.
So, what could I do? What could I do as forget business, just interpersonal relationships, trying to get to be a better communicator?
Well, it's like what we discussed before. Be a good listener. Be somebody who can take a breath and listen to what the person is saying in front of you, hearing their concerns, hearing what they want and how they look to getting it from you, and really understanding that whole process with them. Because so much of the time we're so quick that we want to pitch our ideas, we want to pitch our service, our product, without giving that person that leeway of saying what it is that they want and need. And people will give you all of the information. If you can at least engage them in that conversation, ask the follow-up questions, keep them understanding that their interests are your interests. And that helps in so many different conversations that we have one-on-one or even as a group, letting people fully flesh out their ideas, give them that time, because I know so many people, you could feel the anxiousness of somebody just waiting to like, oh, it's my turn to talk. It's my turn to talk. And you tend to just cut off what you were saying or realize, okay, let me let this person talk and hear what they have to say. But you're already given this feeling that you were talking and rambling and it wasn't valued, and now you feel self-conscious and insecure. And it's like all of these feelings that we do to ourselves. But unfortunately, the result is I'm not going to buy from you. You know, I feel bad now. Like I thought you were here to listen to what I wanted, but you really weren't.
Yeah, and I find that to be I think a skill that comes as you a age on. A lot of people will
Not
younger
necessarily.
people. I know, okay. Never mind. A
No,
lot of
no.
I have
I
found
find it harder with the older people because they are so quick to tell you all of their experiences and they still haven't learned to listen. Yeah.
I have found because when I had my brick and mortar, I had a lot of high school, college age people working for me. And the one thing I always noticed with some of them, not but the same people always did the same things. They were waiting to answer the question I didn't ask yet. They had the answer ready, And it was nowhere near where I was going. I did sometimes didn't even ask a question, and yet they were ready. How do you shut that down in your head? Like I know I'm listening to you now and I'm trying to formulate the next question in my head and I'm going, wait a minute, what did she say? I forgot which. How do you do that little bit of separation too? Because I think that that's um part of the listening, that the active listening, don't get lost in your head, but know what you need to say next. How do you compartmentalize all of that?
Well, some of it is being prepared of, what you're hoping to get out of a conversation, having those bullet points or questions that you know yourself you want answered, that you're willing to hear somebody out. And as you're listening to them, that maybe they're already checking off those boxes for you. So you don't have to ask that question. You just need to let that person explain what it is that they do, what it is they want from you, whatever the give and take is. And you most likely the answer will be there without you even having to ask. But let that person completely finish their thought. And I know sometimes too, if I see somebody pause and they're kind of looking up, I'm thinking, okay, they still have more to say. So I'm going to be quiet. But if nothing's happening, I said, let me know if you have anything more to say on this, because I do have a couple of questions, but I don't want to interrupt you. So I let them know at least that I'm waiting for them, and maybe
Right.
they have finished, but they're not indicating that to me.
So you're
So
reading one
I
thing, but they're really meaning another thing. I get it.
so
I
I
get it.
I use my listening time to watch for facial cues. I watch their body language. I look to see what is it that is making them a little anxious or a little nervous, or maybe they're very confident in what they have to say. So I know I'm just going to let them complete that thought. I will know when it's my turn. It's going to be very easy. But that's a lot of listening is observing and watching as well. So it's a combination.
And as my grandmother would say, shutting up. So listen, on that other note, we are in the right room. And one of the other segments that we do here is we ask all of our guests, what does being in the right room mean to you?
Well, the right room for me is filled with chocolate and champagne. If I have to tell you, that is absolutely the right room.
And that's a wrap on the show, guys. The philosophy of Celeste DeCamps 101. Okay, now seriously.
Okay.
Seriously, on a professional level, what does being
Special.
in the right room mean to
Oh,
you?
we'll try this again. Okay.
Okay. You should really leave all of this in.
The right room for me is knowing that the people that are there are people that I want to connect with. I want to learn more from. They are there with a lot of experience, a lot of information, and the generosity to share it. I find that the most accomplished people are the ones that are willing to give advice, to give you at least an understanding of where you can take that advice and how to use it and to move forward with your life with the understanding that I can contact them at any time in the future, that they really are there to help me and know that what I bring to the table is also beneficial because I like that quid pro quo. I'd like to be able to be of service to you, knowing that you're a service for me. And that's what real connection is. That's where you grow, that's where you learn, that's where you expand. And when you have that, when you can look through your list of contacts and know that, oh, I know who can help me with this, and know that when I call that number, I'm not going to be given the bum's rush, that they're going to say, yes, let's set a time and date and let's tackle this. To me, that is everything. That's what connections are. That's why I am very grateful that I have made this connection with you, Jane, because we do that for each other on a regular basis.
Yeah,
And I know that the people that we've connected with in this community have been a big part of the right room. And I look at that as a wonderful advantage that we've created for ourselves. And hopefully for everybody who comes on that they feel that sense of community that we're so trying hard to foster.
that's right. I mean, you come on and you impart the wisdom that you have in your head and what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you. But the fact that we all can come to the right room and be there and share everything and make the connections, like you said, doing that listening, making the connections and saying, hey, you know what? I remember so and so. They were on an episode that I think I heard them say, you go watch that episode again. And you're like, you know what? I did hear them say that. Here's their information. We want to connect you to the people that can actually help you make better right rooms for yourselves. So really appreciate the way this all panned out today and really the fact that communicating is probably one of the things that leads to the downfall of a lot of businesses and they don't even recognize it. But when they do, they need to call Celeste because she it will help you whether it like she said, whether it's a presentation or staff trainings or whatever it is, or the customer experience, she has run the full gamut of everything and everything she's done and really knows how to nuance it for each individual industry. I can't say enough about her. I think she's wonderful. My speeches, my talks, my presentations have upped their game. And I owe it all to working with a communications coach all these almost it's half a decade almost. I mean, it is. But yeah. Hey,
Thank you.
listen, I loved having you here in the right room. Thank you so much for coming today and joining me, little old me, in the room. So appreciated. And we'll see you all next time. Celeste, say goodbye, Celeste.
Goodbye, Celeste. Goodbye, Jane. Always a
Take
lovely
care,
visit.
take care, everybody. Thank you.